What would happen if the world suddenly returned to the Stone Age? If humanity were to lose thousands of years of technological advancement overnight and all the comforts of modern life vanished in an instant, how would we survive? Electricity, the internet, transportation, healthcare, security, the economy. If everything were to reset, what kind of chaos would the world be thrown into? The first days would be filled with panic, hunger, and fear, as people were forced to face the harsh realities of nature. No phones would ring, no television screens would light up, refrigerators would stop working, and food would spoil rapidly. The water supply would be cut off, and no drop of water would come from the taps. People would have to look to nature for drinking water. In cities, millions would be helplessly searching for solutions to the water crisis. Some would turn to old wells, while others would try to collect rainwater. However, with the lack of hygiene, diseases would spread rapidly. Bank accounts, digital currencies, stocks. They would all suddenly become worthless. The entire financial system would collapse, and survival would depend on physical resources and skills. Money would have no meaning, and even gold and silver would hold no real value. Survival would depend on food, water, and shelter. Supermarkets would be looted, and it wouldn't take long before people, driven by hunger, turned on each other. Governments would try to maintain order with military force, but without electricity, coordination would become nearly impossible. Without gasoline and diesel, vehicles would be useless. Planes couldn't take off, trains wouldn't operate, and ships would remain stationary in ports. The collapse of transportation would mean the disruption of food supply to major cities. Farmers wouldn't be able to transport their goods, and people in cities would face starvation. Agricultural machinery would stop working, and traditional farming methods would become the only option, which would mean millions would go hungry. Without modern farming techniques, it would be impossible to feed such a large population. The healthcare system would completely collapse. Hospitals would become useless, surgeries would be impossible, and life support machines and heart devices would stop working. Dialysis patients would face certain death. Insulin and other vital medications would be unavailable. Even a small infection could become fatal. And with the absence of modern medicine, human life expectancy would drastically shorten. Communication would cease entirely. The internet, television, radio, and phone lines would all shut down. People would be unable to contact each other, and governments wouldn't be able to communicate with their citizens. Chaos would erupt in large cities, and with the loss of control by governments, law and order would completely vanish. Power would be determined solely by strength, and survival would depend on the ability to dominate. Humans would have to return to hunting and gathering. Some would flee to forests and mountains to try to live off the land. However, modern humans lack the survival skills necessary to thrive in the wild. Building shelters, hunting, and making fire would be foreign skills to most. Within days, millions of people would die from starvation or exposure to the elements. Society would split into primitive tribes. The strong would dominate the weak. It would be one of the most brutal periods in human history. Without laws, and with only strength as a currency, the world would descend into chaos. People would kill each other for food without hesitation. Hunger, fear, and the instinct for survival would bring out the darkest aspects of human nature. At first, people would try to rebuild using their memories of past technologies. But without electricity, petrochemicals, or modern manufacturing plants, bringing back old technologies would be impossible. Within a generation, modern civilization would be completely forgotten. Books would gradually be destroyed, and written knowledge would vanish. Humanity would be forced to revert to primitive ways. Thousands of years later, Perhaps people would rediscover ancient ruins, thinking, once, a great civilization existed here, just as we study the ruins of ancient Egypt or the Mayans today. Humanity, which once sought to master nature, would now find itself forced to become a part of it again. In the end, only the most adaptable would survive. The world would return to its wild and unforgiving nature, erasing all traces of human intervention. Could humans adapt to this situation? Would it really be possible to adapt? Having become accustomed to the comforts of modern life, where everything is instantly accessible, how would people cope with losing all these luxuries in an instant? Adapting would be nearly impossible in this new world where survival is the only goal. While people might try to survive by relying on old skills and past habits, letting go of the conveniences of modern life would be incredibly difficult. But what would happen if humans couldn't adapt? In that case, societal collapse would become inevitable. Many people would perish before ever learning how to survive. Natural selection would become a harsh reality, and those who survived would be the strongest and most adaptable. Humanity wouldn't begin a new age, it would simply fight to survive. This struggle could perhaps mark the beginning of a long process of rebirth, a process that could last for millions of years.